when do you start to measure the success of a partnership?
Or even what success is.
Yeah. I think, being able to answer that has to be the first step.
Right.
Like, you have no business really getting into a discussion, because it's going to end up not being a great experience for anybody. So it kind of depends on what am I trying to do here? What's the objective of this partnership? Are we putting on an event and we want someone to help us get bodies there?
Yep.
Being able to just root yourself in one thing.
Yep.
Of my boss is very, very good about instilling this of anytime we have a discussion, she's like, I want to know what a win looks like.
Yep.
That's how we start the conversation.
Right.
And she'll push back of just that's not clear enough. You need to be able to say what it is.
Welcome to Long Run Labs, a weekly podcast from the team behind For the Long Run podcast, telling the stories of those running the outdoor industry where endurance and entrepreneurship meet. This episode is brought to you by Popfly. If you're a brand trying to reach outdoor, travel, and adventure audiences, Popfly is where you should be running your creator program. It connects you with the largest community of adventure creators on the planet, people who actually use the gear, live the lifestyle, and have built real trust with their audiences. Popfly handles the whole operation. Affiliate links, discount codes, creator and ambassador collaborations, all in one place. No more chasing people down over email. You scale brand momentum, track what's actually working, and every mention comes from a place of credibility because the creators you're working with genuinely mean it. Go to popfly.com to check it out, and if you want to reach out to them, let them know that we sent you. All right, we're here with Erin Cooper. We are in Marinwood, California for the Big Alta presented by Salomon. Erin, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Thanks for having me.
You've had a long time to get ahead of this first question.
Yeah.
Who is Erin?
Yeah. Erin, who am I? Someone who's really passionate about a lot of things. I think I like to dabble in a lot of things, but really on quest to find balance in life, which really doesn't exist. But I keep very busy and have a lot of things going on in life, and it's a fun ride.
And you love running. You love being a part of the running world.
Yeah.
I see you everywhere. How did running enter the picture for you?
I think I was probably predestined to end up in running in some capacity, and not having the athletic talents that a lot of the people that I work with have. It was like a natural fit to be at a running company. But I come from from a family of runners. Both of my parents ran in high school, and one of my favorite stories from my mom is that when she was in high school, they didn't have a women's track team, and she went and got a teacher to sign on as the person who would sponsor the track team. And they went to the athletic director and said, "Okay, we want to form a women's track team." The athletic director said, "But where will you practice?" And she said, "Well, on the track." And he said, "But that's where the boys track practice." So it's just crazy.
Hours a week,
it's crazy to see that from just the generation above me, that experience to my full career is in the running industry, and it's very cool to see that pipeline. But
so you've been at Salomon for 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
What did that journey look like? How did you get there? How did you put yourself in a position to be there? And I asked that question for a variety of reasons. One, to kind of drive where we're going with the conversation, but two, a lot of people listening are wanting to get into the running space. And so hearing how did it happen is always helpful.
I had kind of a natural upbringing into the industry. I think that a lot of people that I work with are on that same pipeline. I ran cross country and track in high school and in college, and then just naturally from there started working in a running store. I actually post college moved to LA with my brother and was living in LA working in a running store, just making ends meet. And I didn't even know, my whole dream was that I wanted to write for Runner's World. I was a journalism major, and that was it. That's all I wanted to do. And then I kind of, petered out on that dream a little bit. And so I'm working in the store, and you get to know a lot of the reps that come into the store. And one of the reps came in, I was leading the run club of the store at the time in Santa Monica. And she was like, "Man, you would be really good as a tech rep." And I was like, "What's that?" And then I learned about jobs of field marketing and technical representatives that a lot of brands have. And I was like, "Oh, that sounds kind of cool. You get to travel around and talk to different runners and talk to running stores." And so that was my first job in the industry, and just kind of cut my teeth from working in run specialty to then being out in the field representing brand and then working my way up.
I feel like a lot of people get their start from being either a tech rep or working in run specialty. What is it about that space that allows you to progress?
Anytime I'm like interviewing for people now, I always love to see if they have that background
Yeah.
because you're the first line of defense with customers. I mean, there's a huge difference between sitting in an office and like, what do we think runners would like, or how do we talk
Right.
to them? But like, these are the people that are on the front lines and deal with it day in and day out, and you really get a breadth of experience of talking to different consumers. And I think that gives you a lot of experience. The other thing about not just working in a running store, but then being in a tech rep position for any brand is like you wear a lot of hats. You're kind of part sales, part
Right.
marketing, event planner. You're dealing with all customer service.
Right.
So I think it really just sets a lot of people up who are getting into the industry to then go on whatever path they want. If they want to become a sales rep or they want to be on the product team, it really is a great place to start.
What happened next?
Well, the first company that I worked for was Saucony. I worked for Saucony for 8 years, and actually
Out of Boston, right?
out of Boston. Well, at the time, so I was living in LA post college, working at the store, and the Saucony rep was like, "You should apply." And I did apply for a role in LA, and I didn't get it. Which, looking in hindsight, it's all 2020, but it worked out for the best. But I was a little bit bummed. I moved back to Ohio shortly after and was working at my hometown running store at the time. Shout out to Second Soul in Ohio. And I got a call from Saucony a couple months later, and they were like, "Hey, we don't have a tech rep role, but we have this job called a mobile marketing coordinator. Would you be interested?" And I didn't even know what it was. And I was said,
Yeah.
"Yep." 22, 23 years old. I was like, "Yeah, sign me up." Turns out it was living on the road for a year, driving an extended cab Dodge Sprinter van around the country that had a treadmill in it and demo shoes and tents and everything. And so I was basically like the traveling field marketing rep. So I didn't have a home base. So my very first day on the job, I flew to Boston for a sales meeting in November of 2011 and picked up the keys for the van and immediately drove out. This was during the time that Saucony sponsored Foot Locker national championships cross country.
And when Foot Locker existed.
When Foot RIP. And so my very first job was driving out to the Midwest champs for that and showing up and putting snow fencing up, and that was it.
So much of like finding yourself in the right place is saying yes at the right time,
Yeah.
and like being in the right place to say yes
Yep.
to something.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about the like intentional serendipity that you feel worked out, or what would you say to somebody else who's like trying to find their space in the industry?
Well, I think it's that right there, like saying yes, being in a place to say yes. I mean, I think that for sure there's a lot of like just timing in life. Like I was young, I was
Yep.
unattached, I didn't have kids. Like it worked out well that I could be like, sure, I don't need a home base.
Right.
I'll just travel for
Drive,
a year and
yeah.
drive and buy myself in a van. But I think knowing or believing that like nothing really lasts forever. So you can't even fathom, I didn't even know that job existed. So you can't even imagine what that might lead to or
Right.
who you might meet along the way or, what doors are going to open up in the future. And so I think that's always been my philosophy, which like circles back around obviously 8 years later to then taking this job with Salomon. Like I'd never, if you would have told me I'm going to be living in Utah someday, like I just could have never
Yeah.
imagined that. And it's like now it makes total sense that that's how it ended up.
So fast forward those 8 years,
Mhm.
you're leading performance and sports style for a global brand that works with some of the best athletes in the world.
Mhm.
And you get to work with some of those best athletes in the world. You're on a texting relationship with those athletes. What happened in between? How did that
Yeah.
gap occur? Or
It's,
how did that-
I mean, I think, yeah. So I worked in the field for a while after that van role. I was a tech rep down in Florida, and then I became a tech rep back in Ohio and was a manager. And then pretty shortly after 2016, I was extended a promotion to join the marketing team in Boston. So I lived in Boston prior to coming out to Utah. And in that role, I was in and around brand marketing for what I like know it now and like the team that deals
Yep.
with the athletes, but I wasn't directly involved. I worked on the trade marketing team, so partnerships with wholesale accounts,
Yep.
Marathon Sports example. But I was always interested in it, and I was like, "This is there's something there that like I am very much rooted in like the love of storytelling from my journalism background,
Yeah.
and like wanted to lean into like the bigger stories you can tell with athletes and when you have product launches, et cetera." Anyways, a recruiter reached out about Salomon. And once I figured out what side of Colorado, Utah was actually on, because I wasn't quite sure being an East Coast person, Midwest person. I just was like, man, this is a brand that like I don't know that I would have ever really seen myself at, coming from such like a strong road background. But I just was enamored with like everything that they do in their storytelling space, that it definitely piqued my interest. And then after one interview, I was like, well, I think I'm hooked.
So you've been there a while now. You're on the brand marketing side.
Yep.
I love the conversation, or the not parallels, like the juxtaposition of brand versus performance marketing. What does brand marketing mean to you? How do you execute good brand marketing?
I think the first thing is that you always have to be thinking omni-channel. Like there's, we have divisions within the organization that of course are like trade first, or like wholesale first, or owned retail first. We have the beauty of living in between all of that, and just like wherever the consumer chooses to find us or shop for us or experience us, we get to be like the keeper of how do you keep that experience consistent, because everyone's going to intercept with a brand at a different point. Whether they know us from the skiing background, or maybe they're coming over from sportstyle or whatever it is, like we really sit in that space and can kind of play and like where do we think they're coming from, and how do we meet them where they are and be able to introduce them to the brand.
What are the tools that you have as a brand marketer? What are the channels? What are the like tactics that you're executing against?
Well, we obviously I work out of the North America office, so we work very closely with our counterparts at the headquarters in Annecy, France. It's like a well-oiled machine over there. Like we're a very dialed company, and that was like one of the first things when I joined that I was like, oh, this is kind of the big leagues. Like there's definitely a huge difference in like a global brand like Salomon, and how many people are involved in things. So our responsibility is to understand where the brand is going, what are the key campaigns or products we have going on, and then adapt that to like our go-to-market strategy. I would say the biggest things that we lean into, and obviously having like Drew here, who leads our sports and community marketing on the performance side, like we think about in real life executions and activations. We think a lot digitally, so we work really closely of like, what is our content assortment? Does that speak to the North America audience? Do we need to supplement it? And if so, how do we do that? Is that through influencers and paid content? We work a lot with PR and have two different PR agencies that are great, that oversee sportstyle and performance differently. Performance in the concept of like running and
That's outside PR.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Shout out to Outside PR. And so, I would say like my team really oversees the campaign execution in the market, sports and community. We have owned retail under our umbrella as well. So we're starting to open up more stores in North America, and how do we look and activate in the community and kind of emerge there. But it feels like an endless supply of like tools for us to lean into, and it's constantly adapting depending on where the consumer is.
Yeah, and where like you spent one whole pandemic at Salomon, and
my first year.
I can't even imagine.
Second year.
And like I was at Insight Tracker in 2020 through 2025, and so much of that was adapting. You're always adapting. The market's changing. All these different things are changing. Coming out of all of that, it's 2026. People are craving the in real life experiences. People are craving the travel to a race. They're wanting to go and do things with their friends. They're traveling with their family. How do you think about the intersection of the in-person and digital? And like we're here on a media trip, and there are a bunch of people who have some media property, and we'll go back and publish our stuff online, but we're meeting in person.
Yeah.
How do you think about the congruency or the alignment between digital and in person?
I think if you do it successfully, one can't live without the other. Because a goal, if we're thinking about a media trip and we are thinking about who would be great partners to have on that, and then what are their audiences and how do they differ across each other? I want someone that's going back in your following to be able to see that, they're already bought into you and as being a part of your audience, and to be like, wow, that looks like something really cool, like that he got to experience with Salomon. I've never thought about Salomon. Like maybe I should think about it. But then you need to layer it up where like you're able to offer those experiences to people that are following. And I think they come in different like tiers. There's sort of like the tip of the spear where it's like, okay, how do we get the right people in the room to like understand the message or what we're trying to do to get it out to there audiences, and then how do you offer something like that that's to the mass consumer? So and then when you're even having that experience, it's like a bigger, let's say, a product launch, and you have a, consumer activation or whatever it is, that you are capturing content there to
Right.
put back into the ecosystem so that other people
Before,
that are
during,
seeing it
after.
exactly are like, man, I feel like there is something special about creating FOMO in a
Exactly.
very positive way, not in like an exclusivity
Yep.
way, but sort of like, man, I want to be a part of that. And I think that's like part of building the community around it.
I think a lot of the brands that are doing it right are creating that digital FOMO that you're welcome to be a part of if you show up in person. And so there's some exclusivity with that, in that like you have to get on a plane or get in a
Sure.
car and go somewhere. But like with what's happening with Western States or here at Big Alta, like brands are making things fun, and most people are invited to, or everyone's invited to participate in the fun. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah. And I think like, an event like this, you're probably not going to travel out here unless you're running the race or you're
Right.
crewing somebody or you're in that sense. But how do we support?
Which you should, because
it's pretty awesome.
friends are freaking incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. This would be a great getaway. But how do we help like expand that to more audiences? And like, I feel like I'm a perfect like test case example of being like really purely from the road running space. And
Yep.
now like the fact that we're able to live stream trail races and
Right.
like feel a part of that and expand the community and make it really fun, I think is part of what's helping grow the sport. It's just like being able to see it. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind is what it used to be. And now it's like more people are like, oh my gosh, look at that. I could see myself doing that.
Talk to me more about the YouTube access and the digital access. By the way, if you're listening to this on audio only, you can watch it on YouTube. But speaking of YouTube, how do you think about the broadcast side of racing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my like realm of like touching that space is through our partnerships that we have at our HQ. But if we think about like Golden Trail Series, for example, there is a partnership with Warner Brothers where we have been, live streaming and really targeting to be able to get that out. I think it is in spaces where you're able to do that at the trail races. I mean, you run into a lot of like 4G coverage and things that maybe make it prohibitive, but I do think it is really, really cool to be able to offer that up. You have people like Courtney Dauwalter, that there's just a mass following, and like her fan base to be able to tune in from wherever they are in the world and be able to cheer her on and root for her is a pretty special time that we're in, that we're like able to show that.
What is it like having someone like Courtney, who's like a tentpole type partner, in that she has people that follow her, that support her, that are 10 times larger than her, and like a Cam Hanes with millions of followers, or she went on Joe Rogan. Like, say what you will about his platform and audience, but like it's one of the largest out there, period. What is it like to have someone like that who can be amplified by such broad, not just niche platforms?
I mean, she's a dream partnership. Like she's just an incredible human.
What's the DNA of that partnership? Like how is it so perfect?
I think she's just incredibly authentic. Like you just can't teach that. Like that's just who she is. And I obviously came on board. I think she had been with the brand as like an ambassador, which is like very funny. Her very first deal, I think, was like product,
like 2018.
And, I think 2017 was like when we first started. The team at the time was like seeing her product to see where she is now. But she has never, I think, wavered into like what it is about trail running that is fun for her, which is that it's just fun.
Right.
And I think we were talking about this, like a lot of people try to crack like, well, what is it?
No
like,
cracking,
there's no, like it's just. That's the story.
She just likes it, and she needs to brush her teeth 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. But I think she getting to like know her more and work with her over the years. Like she's really good about advocating for herself, and she does it in like a really great, just professional way. That it's a partnership at the end of the day. Like you never want to feel like an athlete is demanding something or the brand is demanding something of someone else. And I think that's what keeps it going. I think the fact that she has been like with Salomon from the beginning is super helpful. But yeah, I mean, I think those are the types of partnerships that you look at that are like very special. And it's just like seeing where her career has gone over the past 10 plus years. It's just been incredible.
What about the intersection of influencers and performance athletes?
Yeah. What about them?
I'm guessing you have a lot of opinions. And the brand the brand plays in both sandboxes. And again, like we're here, Dan Green and Grayson are downstairs. And then you're supporting Tommy and he's running 100K.
Totally. Yeah. The way that I look at it is, I work on the sports style side as well. And I think content creators, influencers are very different. If you look at those two as like different sports, if you will.
Content creators and influencers separate.
No, I'm saying, well, in some sense, but I'm saying sports style and performance.
Got it.
Very different in terms of like who is the end consumer and what's going to like get them going. So when I think about it on the sports style lens, it's like very much about like being a if you know kind of personality, and are they being able to, for us as a brand, are they being able to show like how to buy, how to style, like how you're gonna wear it out in the streets.
How do you define sports style?
Lifestyle product. Yeah. Which is like all of our old trail shoes that are now on, Paris Fashion Week runways. And
Gorp, right?
Yeah, that really is where it exploded. And honestly, when I started in 2019, we didn't even have a dedicated sports style team internally.
Yeah.
And now like on my team, I have our sports style brand manager and who does like energy marketing around, partnerships and content and stuff. But it's just crazy to see like how much it's grown. And like the XT6 is like the it girl shoe in Manhattan right now. Like you can't go a block without seeing people wearing Salomon.
And it's a trail tread?
It is the, we probably have a pair downstairs, but it is the original shoe. It was like a UTMB podium shoe.
Wow.
2013 maybe.
People are just wearing in Manhattan.
But they're just like, they are that category for us, that business unit is just like exploding.
What powers that?
There's a huge love. You look at other brands like Arc'teryx and like, this like mountain sport culture that I think is like very grabbable. Like people just really want to, just because you're in like a concrete jungle, like people really want to be able to say like, but this is like who I am and like who I aspire to be.
So do you think it's stronger in cities versus mountain towns?
Wearing it through the lens of sports style. Yes. Yeah. Like if you are, if you are, and I would actually bet that a lot of sports style influencers or people within that world don't even know that the shoes were original trail running shoes or like.
So they're not actually doing the thing. They're just wanting to signal that they know what's going on.
Well, it's like anything. Hoka, Asics, like New Balance, a lot of the like lifestyle channel that they have is like the dad shoe or like, whatever's super popular. But we definitely have a stronghold in that category right now. And it's very fun to see that because there's also an intersection. There are people that are in that world that like want to rock their XT6, the XT Whisper after whatever, but then they're like racing in, whatever trail shoe we have. Ultra Glide. But a shoe that we had come out last year in the sports style sense, the XT Whisper, was a 2009 created trail shoe for Salomon that was our first like women's specific silhouette that came out. We had a men's version called the XT Hawk that came at the same time. And then, it fizzled out after a year or so, went into the archives. And then in 2025, we brought it back out as a sports style shoe. And part of that was that we've been pretty like male heavy in terms of our consumer DNA in general, but on the sports style side. And this was really a big initiative to like win with her by launching this, like, even though it's a unisex shoe, but leading with like the story behind it and kind of a woman's first perspective. And it's just been like crazy to see that gain as much notoriety and popularity as what the XT6 has.
If you're enjoying Long Run Labs, we'd love it if you took a moment to leave a review. It only takes a minute, but it helps the show reach more people like you. If an episode has helped you think differently about your business or career, made a long run fly by, or taught you something new, scroll down in your podcast app and tap those stars and write a review. Thank you for your support. Quick word about the huddle before we get into today's episode. If you're building a business, you already know how isolating it can get. You're making decisions daily that most people in your life don't fully understand. And the surface level networking stuff, it rarely helps. You walk out of those rooms with a stack of business cards and none of the clarity you actually needed. What my co-founders Jason Fitzgerald, Ross Yellen, and I are building at The Huddle is different. It's a peer advisory community built for early stage founders who want real accountability and real conversation. You get placed in a small cohort of people across different industries who actually have decision-making authority in their businesses. You meet monthly, you workshop each other's problems, and you build the kind of relationships where someone will tell you the thing you needed to hear, not just what sounds good. There are in-person sessions here in Boulder and virtual cohorts open to founders anywhere in the country. The three of us started The Huddle because we wanted this and it didn't exist. If you're at a point where going at it alone isn't working, or you're ready to level things up in your business, go to findmyhuddle.com and fill out the application. Link in the show notes, and we'll be in touch from there. So you just signed Grace in her second trimester.
Yeah, I love it.
Would that couldn't have happened 5 years ago, 10 years
Probably
ago?
no.
What has enabled that to be something that's not only just happening, but like celebrated?
I mean, I think a lot of brands and athletes that have been speaking up for years around like how do we think about female athletes in the sport and what happens to them.
Right.
Many people before us that have like led that charge, and I've done a lot of partnership work with Alicia Montano and Mother and
Yep.
Lauren Fleshman we worked with early on in our career in Salomon. And so I think just people that have been like speaking up about it and like how contracts were built prior. And the value of an athlete has also changed, which ties us back into like the influencer space. Like it's not just about their podium times, but what can they bring to the brand? How can they advocate about the brand?
Like
How can they
she's a
speak about
unicorn.
it? Yeah. Yeah, truly.
She's checks both boxes well.
Yeah, totally.
But like what has changed that's enabled that to be possible? Like I've been in the partnerships and marketing space for 10, 12 years, and my best partners have always been women. And I've always been banging on this drum of like, everyone else needs to this is insane that it's not the case. And it's finally catching up that like we're all humans, number one. And that's the most relatable part, not the fact that we can, be on the top of a podium.
Yeah.
Right. So like, was it really just like needed to stumble and needed to wade through the shit before we can like get to a place where it makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think the digital age has changed a lot because it's just like the mentality. I don't know what the mentality of brands were prior and like with the value that they placed on athletes and how they looked at them as like, what are they getting out of it? Yeah. Like, what do they get out of it? And how do they dispose of them? I think in general, sports marketing programs have improved to be able to think of the longevity or like how do you phase out an athlete or how do you sunset their career, or like how do you work with them, like some athletes then become internal consultants in the end or whatever. But yeah, it's clearly has just like been long overdue in terms of that, and I think it is so badass that was like how we announced this partnership with her. And it's just really cool to see. And also like let's not forget that women peak later, and she's probably just got like the best days ahead of her in terms of what's happening. And mom strength is a very true thing. So like it'll be very exciting to see her like come out on after having her first child and see what she starts to tackle.
So going back to what we were just talking about, how do you think about that intersection of athlete versus influencer or content creator?
Well, then when I get to the performance running side of things, I think of it way different than I do sports style, where like I think that there's just there's a lot of noise in that space. And as a consumer first, who's online scrolling her phone a lot, and then as you are
for
work. Definitely, for work. And then like being out in real life experiences, you would know this too from being in events, like you start to see where's the authenticity. And I think it has to be authentic or it's not going to make sense for the brand or for that person. And, if you want to have like a quick, like flash in the pan, sure. Maybe you can like partner with someone who has a huge reach and see what that does. But I think that's never been like the path that Salomon would want to follow in terms of even who they would want for an athlete, for example. Like it's the longer term payoff. Like we know Grayson's not going to be running for a while, but we believe in her and what she wants to do and what she means to the sport and the community, that it's like the longer payoff.
To go further on the long term or for the long run piece of it, I posted on Threads recently. I was like, aiming the question at consumers, like, how do you feel about influencers that bounce from brand to brand for campaigns? And like you see, one person doing 3 different activations at a major marathon. And I worked with one brand for 3 years. And so I'm biased in that, like I worked with Puma for 3 years. It was like a well-paying partnership that like funded this whole operation. And now I don't have a shoe partner. I'm not being paid to host you on this show. This is a totally slightly biased in that you brought me out here for this. But I was shocked with the response and it was I got about 50 responses.
I'm curious to hear what it was.
I'm curious what your take is first
before you tell me. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So the question being like, yeah, how do you feel
The question was
about
like,
people bouncing around?
Yeah. Yes.
I think my my personal opinion is this isn't going to be a great answer because I think you need both, but I think you have to be selective of like what does that like an athlete like Courtney and athletes in general. Yes, they'll bounce around at some points in their career, but if you're seeing someone consistently bounce around,
Yep.
their value is going to decrease if it's like here we go to like post another announcement. Where on the content and influencer side, I actually appreciate it. I think that it's like more in line of what a normal consumer is.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to show up well, I have seen people, but no one's going to show up head to toe in Salomon all the time. Like it makes sense that we try different brands and that we kind of go around and like, yeah, you have your favorites of like hydration or your favorite, hat brand or whatever. But I think it's unrealistic to assume a consumer is going to be head to toe loyal to one brand. So I am fine with it.
So that was the takeaway from like 95% of the responses. And I was surprised. I thought it would be in the other direction, that it was like a lack of trust thing. But the more you talk about it and the more I read through it, I was like, yeah, most people.
Is that what you were thinking too? Or were you on the other?
I mean, I was like, I think it's odd that an influencer would do 3 events with different brands over the course of a race weekend. But I was also confused as to like doing a bunch of different partnerships throughout a year. But to your point, it makes sense. Like people wear different shoes, people use different nutrition, and these aren't pro athletes being paid to perform in that shoe, and they're not like helping innovate on that shoe.
Yeah.
So I do some work with Zach Bitter, and he has a similar yet different take. So he was sponsored by Ultra for I don't know, a decade. So was his wife, I'm pretty sure. And now he's wanting to do like 3-month campaigns with brands because he's chasing peak performance. He's wanting to run 10 100-milers under 12 hours. And like most people can't do that. And so for him, it's like whatever shoe I pick, I'm endorsing because I think that it's going to give me the best chance to run as fast as I possibly can. He's like, I want to try a bunch of different brands and I want to show what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and how to maximize on race day.
Yeah. It's such a, we get inundated with people like, I'm doing this, can you sponsor me or whatever? And then you take someone like Tommy, for example, that we have out here on the content influencer side of things, who's running, we know he's on his quest to go to Western states, and that will not be with us. It'll be with a different brand, but this is one of the steps on the way.
Right.
And it just was like, he's talk about longevity. It can look different because we've been, with Tommy on different things throughout the last several years. And so it's a natural fit that we like trust how he will represent the brand. We're okay that we know that that's going to mean, next race is going to be with somebody else, but like this was the moment, and he does such a great job and is a professional in it, that I think it can make sense. The other thing about like, if you're in a particular race weekend, it's so hard to see. I would need to see some examples of like people doing it because it can feel inauthentic. That is a risk.
I mean, I literally watched people change shoes to go between events.
Yeah. It's like the coach at the Olympics that had so many people that he like kept changing his jacket. Yeah. He was representing multiple countries. But yeah. And so maybe that you're like, that doesn't make sense. But I think for emerging brands, it's a way to like get into the space when you like can't do some of the quotes that we get are just insane. And it's like, I can't do that for this particular thing, but like, could we do this one moment in time? So
the more I hear about it, the more I'm like changing my opinion on it because it makes total sense. And again, like amateurs are not head to toe in a brand, and you're an entertainer also.
Well, and you expect athletes to be dedicated to one brand.
Right.
So like you get that, and like, that's what we're going to talk about. I think this is like I think a lot of people follow content creators, influencers because they want to see the variety of things and they want to be exposed to stuff. And yes, there's a lens of like, I know you're being paid to talk about this, or you're being paid to show up, but they could say no and not do it. So like there is some level of trust of like, okay, if they're choosing to spend their time, that's already a little validation for me for that.
So what has been effective for you in terms of how you connect influencers, content creators, and athletes, is there a thought process around how the influencers can help the athletes and vice versa?
I think athletes have a lot of pressure to show up like an influencer
Yeah.
and content creator these days. So if you can if I were an athlete and just able to like observe
Yeah.
things that are out there, I think that is a way that can be helpful of like how do they show up or how do
Yeah.
they make a reel or do whatever to like basically promote themselves as a
Yeah.
brand. So I think that's a huge benefit because in part like the reason people I think are drawn to influencers, content creators is like that they're a brand. You know,
Right.
people are following Jonathan Levitt because like
Right.
you're the brand. And athletes can learn a lot from that because I think it makes them really marketable. And when they're in a position that they're maybe looking for another brand sponsor or
Yeah.
adding to it, like being able to show how to represent themselves is massive.
Can I put you on the spot and ask for an example of who you think is doing it well besides Courtney and Grayson?
Of a athlete,
Yeah.
Annie, for
Yeah.
sure. She does a phenomenal job. I like she's newer to our team, and I just love watching her
Annie
content.
Rodenfels? Yeah.
I think she's really great.
Shout out to Meridia.
I know the whole Meridia team and just like seeing her and Colleen like working together all the
Yeah.
time is very, very cool.
I'd love your 2 cents or full dollar on Meridia. What will it take for something like that to really take off?
Oh gosh. I mean, there's gonna need to be larger support at some point, but I think the way that it's like being set up, and I will fully like don't know all the details of the inner workings of Meridia, but I think the way that they're, talking about the brand, launch the
Yep.
brand and the team, the support system that it feels like that they're setting up from the outside with someone who's like not in there, and I'm not in Boulder, but it's giving the perception that like things are clicking and this is a great
Yeah.
setup for athletes to be in. At some point, yeah, probably having some larger partnership,
So the structure is the athletes are all able to
have their
find their
own.
own
Yep.
endemic
Yep.
deals, shoe, nutrition, et cetera,
Mhm.
watches, et cetera. So Colleen, Meridia is Colleen, for
Yes,
the
Colleen.
viewing and listening audience, Colleen Quigley's team that
Mhm.
she's put together that's not backed by a shoe brand
Right.
and has independence of choice when it comes to coaches.
Mhm.
But the idea is that she wants to have non-endemic partners supporting.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's going to be non-endemic for sure.
Yep.
Like I think that I mean, you see that in other sports
Literally
as well.
every other
I was going to
sport.
say it's gonna happen.
It's like we're talking like this is like a novel concept.
Yeah,
It's
we're like,
not.
what
It's like
if?
cycling, it's golf,
What if
it's
another? Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
it. But Colleen's great at content
Mhm.
and she's built her own brand. The challenge is that she's the largest like brand
Voice within it.
property within the whole thing by a large factor.
Mhm.
And so I think she needs a couple more Colleens or something like that. And I've been working with her for the last year on putting this together. We had a lengthy discussion with the Weather Channel that was like a 6-figure multi-year deal that was like very close to coming to
Mhm.
fruition, but it was really hard to sell the dream before the thing existed.
Mhm.
And it was hard to start the thing before there was any funding. So
Yeah.
it's like crazy catch-22, but she's so dedicated to doing it. And
Yeah.
the way that she's going about it is telling the story and letting people in and doing YouTube, doing
Mhm.
podcasts, doing
Mhm.
all these media things to build the fan base. And so last year we did a Meridia Mile. It was a virtual
Mhm.
mile and it raised a few $1,000s for the team.
Mhm.
And we'll partner with Boulderthon this year
Cool.
in some capacity to do either a Meridia Mile or a mile within one of the other races
Yeah.
in partnership with Meridia. But I think that the opportunity there is both the digital like subscriber or fundraising through virtual race and the non-endemics.
Mhm.
And it's just like, it's new, it's novel-ish in running,
Mhm.
but it works in literally every other
Yeah.
sport.
Yeah. I think it's going to get there for sure. And I think, anything worth doing is like going to have these like
Right.
speed bumps in the beginning, but the bones of it are there.
Yeah.
And I think like having this women's team and the fact that you do have the athletes individually having their sponsorships, like there's naturally going to be more eyes on them. And like part of our job as a brand is to also help Annie build her own brand. So I think it'll get there, but yeah.
What is it about Annie that you're so impressed by?
I just, I actually have not met her. We've only emailed. Drew's been around her a lot more as he is, deals with our, deals with our sports and community programs. But she just has such like a relatable personality. Like she makes running look like fun, but also doesn't shy away she's not totally in the Courtney realm where like everything's happy. Like she doesn't shy away from like the hardness of it sometimes. I don't know. I just like, I see her and Colleen together and I'm like, I want to be with them. Like they just make you feel like, oh, I want to go on a run or get coffee with them after.
And she's really freaking fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Very fast. Yeah.
One thing that's come up a lot that I'd love your opinion on is athletes taking a stand for something. We are living through absolute chaos constantly. The world is on fire everywhere, it seems, and people are dealing with things that we could never have imagined Americans are dealing with before you even get out of the country and look at things happening in other places. As someone who sits at a global brand based in Europe with customers all around the world who share different views, like how do you think about athletes and content creators who you're partnering with, taking a stand, not taking a stand, saying things that you disagree with? Like what is the conversation? Is there conversation happening at the brand on that?
There might be at the global level on the global sports marketing team, but my personal opinion of it is like it, again, I've said this word a couple times, but like it all comes back to authenticity. And if you can't believe like the people that you're following, if you can't believe that they're being authentic, it's just hard to trust. Like then why would I listen that you like Salomon, you know? And so I think when someone like stays true to, and it's okay to evolve and change, but when someone stays true to like how they've always been, I'm good if they say whatever they want to say. And I think we do need people to be speaking up about things. And so, but I also believe that like sometimes the shaming of like not speaking up, it's a really hard, place to go. And, I won't call anyone out in particular, but I think that like, I don't think we should be in the running space passing judgment if that's how someone chooses to like protect their peace. And like I think those of us that like work within the brand, we face that too of like not that we're on the level of influencers or but like people follow us in the industry and like what if I post something that someone disagrees with, and that can weigh a lot, but like we all have to protect our own mental health in the space. But I am I support everyone posting or taking a stand for what they believe in.
I think a lot of it is like, to your point, like if you stay consistent and true to who you are, you'll never surprise anyone with a stand that you take. And so when something happens, you can say something and it shouldn't be surprising.
Well, and that's the human aspect of like, like we're all humans within it. Like it's silly to just like go clickety clack on our computers and like not
send
pretend that this is happening in the world. And I actually feel really like, I think that when I look at like Maggie and Annie in particular, I think they're both really great at being really thoughtful and eloquent in how they share their views on things and opinions. And I think that's it.
Yeah. What's firing you up in the running space right now?
Oh man. What keeps me up at night is that I think that there's just so many good brands out there right now that as someone who's like one of my KPIs, if you will, in like a very just vague sense is like we talk a lot about like building the core. Like how do we get those of us that feel this way about Salomon? How do we get everyone to feel that way or more people to feel that way? And that's like such a hard topic but just vibes. As the person who runs the vibe
API of
it's
vibes.
Just so the vibes guy. It's hard to be consumer obsessed when there's just so much going on. And sometimes I feel like I have to put blinders on, because if you get down the trap of being like, oh, ACG is doing this or Hoka is doing this or New Balance is doing that, it can be you can get distracted pretty quickly and be like, oh, well, we should do that. Or like,
Right.
that's how we should do it. And like, I think you sometimes just really have to stay focused on like, how do we connect with people? And I am such an experiential person that like, I will always come back to like, we need to put something on that's going to allow people to experience the brand and experience people behind the brand.
One other question that I've liked asking lately: are you using AI in your day to day?
No,
No.
I'm not. I personally am not.
All right.
I'm sure I know that there's like, teams that are to improve processes, but I am not.
Got it. Well, we can skip.
Oh, sorry. Now I
Skip
want
to
to
the
know what your
next topic.
question was. You're like, okay.
No, I've been asking that question. I put out a Substack, or I'm putting out a three-part Substack series on. The first piece is AI for brand and marketers. The second is for operators and founders, and there's like a tools and how to structure and give it context and all that. And I've personally been using it like an hour a day every day, and it's like saved me tens of hours every week.
I'm sure I can benefit from it.
Yeah, I'll send you the articles.
Yeah.
longrunlabs.substack.com.
There you go.
But it's been interesting to ask that question to people and then kind of like synthesize what everyone's saying and use that to help like create these how-to guides for it based on like the actual use cases.
Yeah, there's going to be I think maybe in the space that I work in might be one of the lower priority ones to start to adapt or adopt some AI usage, but for sure in our like actual digital performance marketing, paid media, and all that
analytics.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
We were talking yesterday, or maybe it was earlier today, what is time anyways, about successful partnerships in the running space. When you're looking to partner with someone, what does a successful partnership discussion, discovery?
Yeah.
How are you setting yourself up for success?
I mean, there's a lot. I think we were talking about this because like, when do you start to measure the success of a partnership? Or
even what success is.
Yeah. I think, being able to answer that has to be the first step.
Right.
Like you have no business really like getting into a discussion because it'll just, it's going to end up not being a great experience for anybody.
For context, I told Erin that like 50% of the time when I ask a brand, like, what is success with this partnership? They just don't know how to answer the question.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, so it kind of depends on like, what am I trying to do here? What's the objective of this partnership? Are we putting on an event and we want someone to help us get bodies there?
Yep.
Being able to just like root yourself in one thing of like, my boss is very, very good about instilling this of like, anytime we have a discussion, she's like, I want to know what a win looks like.
Yep.
That's how we like start the conversation. And she'll push back of just like, that's not clear enough. Like you need to be able to say what it is. So I think it depends on what the circumstance is. But I think looking at like, if you have a partnership in your mind, but you're not quite sure what you want to do with them yet, being able to understand what that brand or entity or person is really good at that you are lacking. So like, where does the puzzle piece connect? I think is like a key thing, because if you have too much sameness, you're just in the echo chamber of like your own people and thoughts. And then like, where is it that like you can have a partnership that maybe is a little bit unexpected, but like still makes sense at the end of the day, I think is really cool. But then, just being very clear of like, is this about, is this about tapping into their audience? Because we know, making this up, we know that we are really great with trail runners and we're expanding with road runners. So who can we find who's a really trusted source in that space that can work with us and validate us as a brand in that sense? Thinking about what's going to be in it for both. And then I always, anytime we start partnership, even if it's like with a creative agency that's building out a concept or whatever it is, like being very clear of like, what do we need you to take on and what are we taking on and how do we make this win together? And then hearing them out of like, what do they need and how can we help?
How often is that conversation happening, being prompted by the creator or the partner? Or is it led by the brand?
Of like establishing like, what does this look like? I actually feel like it mostly comes from the brand side. I feel like I get approached a lot and so does Drew for a lot of partnerships.
People who just like want something.
Yeah. And sometimes if I'm like going to entertain it, like sometimes I just know off the bat. I'm like, I'm not willing to even entertain this right now. Or I can't. Like there's just too much. You got to pick a lane. You got to say no to things sometimes. There's too much going on. But yeah, there are times that someone can have a really great idea. Hey, I'm running this race and I love the brand and I think it'd be great if you sponsor me to run across America, whatever their thing is. And it's like, well, but what's
the brand
beyond the money that will cut you? Like, what is this? Do you have a connection with Salomon? Like, how does this make it work? And I think sometimes I am shocked at how much pulling teeth sometimes it can take of being like, what are you trying to get out of this? And does this actually like fall in line with like, do you actually understand our brand and what we're doing? But then it's on different levels. I mean, there's some great partnerships where they come in and they're like, we see what you're doing. Here's how we think we can elevate. Let's go. And we're like, great, let's go.
If you can deliver a playbook to a partner of like how you're going to help them execute and how partnering with them is going to help both.
Yeah.
That's
a great takeaway.
That's how to make magic happen. Yeah. Erin, this has been a blast.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to chat through today?
We're just so grateful to have you out here. I think it's been a great weekend for us all to experience Big Alta for the first time in their third year, inaugural year of the 100K. And
gonna rip the 28K.
Yeah, we're both gonna be the 28K tomorrow. It's gonna be great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Long Run Labs. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's building something of their own. We'll be back next Tuesday with more stories at the intersection of endurance and entrepreneurship from the people shaping the outdoor industry in ways big and small. Until then, keep showing up, keep asking questions, and we'll see you out there.